Okay.
I'm going to call the roll, please.
Yeah, Commissioner Jones Chance,
Here.
Commissioner Dunwoody, Commissioner Davis Junior,
Present.
Commissioner Hollyfield, Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Shear, Commissioner Marin, Commissioner Woodring.
Here.
All right, do we have a motion for excusing the absence of, Commissioner, Commissioner Marin and Commissioner Dunwoody?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item on the agenda is agenda approval. Has everyone had an opportunity to read through it?
I'd like to support the modification to the agenda. See if we could move the EMB discussion and the bylaws discussion till the end of the business.
It's been proposed to move the bylaws discussion and the EMB discussion to the end of the meeting. Is there any support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved as modified. Now moving to the approval of the August 20th minutes. Has anyone had a chance to review those?
I did want to note that I have been directed by the director to start doing minutes differently. Previously, the minutes have usually for every hour of a meeting, they would take me a full day to go through and actually write the minutes, and that's just simply time that staff does not have, and so he's having us do more simplified minutes because we also provide the recording on YouTube.
Does anyone have any changes or modifications? Hearing none, the agenda, the minutes are approved without objection. To make a note, Mr. Burns.
I'm sorry. Wait, what?
I just approved the minutes of last week.
You disapprove?
No, I just approved.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now it's time for public comment for any items on which there is not a public hearing. If you wish to speak, you'll have a few minutes to do so. Probably. Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone online, Mr. Burns?
There is, if you guys would like to speak during public comment, please raise your hand on Zoom. We have someone who's interested in speaking. Let me unmute you, or it will not let me. All right, Spencer, you are good to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh,
Let me turn up the volume a little bit more.
we have questions about the 908 North Congress Street proposal. Is that later on in the meeting, or should we do
Yes.
that now?
It's a little bit later on, and if you hang on the line here, we'll be sure that you have an opportunity to speak then.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Anyone else in the room that would like to speak? Seeing none, the motion would be in order to close public comment. Moved.
Second.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we'll go on to the non-motorized advisory committee report.
Brief report, we did meet, we reviewed, some of the activities, we've had some folks table different events around the community. We're working on still trying to compile, or I guess create a kind of advocacy communication plan. The priority is to try to increase communication, non-motorized and active transportation stuff around the city. With all the various projects going on, we haven't been able to get updates from city staff that are in charge of construction projects in the city, so we don't have a lot moving on that. But we had a couple people manning in, or I should say, at some booths for Fall River Day. And we are gonna try to do a similar thing for the first Fridays in October. I think that's it at the moment.
Thank you. Are there any questions? It looks like the next item is a presentation of project report from Mr. Burns.
Yes, so let me go ahead and share my screen. It's real quick. All right, just really quickly, I wanted to mention one thing for public hearing items in general. I did receive, or I was contacted by somebody who was interested in speaking for one of the public hearing items last month. And ultimately, the public hearing was open and closed too quickly, and so she was not able to speak. And so just moving forward, I just want to wait a little bit longer just to make sure that we're getting everybody who is interested in speaking, during public hearings, that opportunity to do so. So for 908 North Congress, the applicant Steve Wazinski is proposing crafts manufacturing and retail use. They are proposing to occupy an existing building that totals 2,456 square feet. In addition to occupying the building, they propose screening from adjacent land uses, new landscaping and facade improvements. The parcel is relatively small. It's 0.065 acres or around 2,800 square feet. And it is an interior lot located northwest of North Congress Street and Summit Street intersection. The property is located in the core neighborhood mid, which does not permit craft manufacturing or retail of such products. Hence the applicant's submittal of an adaptive reuse PUD application. So yeah, as mentioned, the lot features a small single-story commercial structure. It's located in a primarily residential zoning district. There's a small concrete plaza and a driveway with minimal landscaping. And back in 2004, the building was occupied by a liquor store. That store would later close, and in 2015, the city council approved an adaptive reuse PUD for Little Bird Cafe. Ultimately, the applicant failed to diligently complete the project, leading to the expiration of approval and building permits. There are notably no departures requested from the applicant. So these are the surrounding land uses. As you can see, mostly it is residential. Regarding the plan unit development requirements for criteria 1 of unified control, the applicant will soon be the property owner of 908 North Congress. For street access, there are no changes that are proposed. Regarding lot coverage, the proposed lot coverage is 56%, meaning that 44% can be defined as usable open space. And the single-story commercial building type permits up to 60% lot coverage, so this is compliant. There are no common areas. This is a one-tenant project. Regarding criteria 4. And then for criteria 5, the applicant aims to beautify the property, further integrating the site into the character of the surrounding neighborhood. Woodworking could create noisy conditions. However, the applicant submitted decibel readings indicating that noise will not be an issue. Screening fully compliant with 122.634 has not been proposed. There's been some screening, but it's not fully compliant with that section of the ordinance. The sidewalk and concrete pavement are in fair to poor condition, and there are no proposed changes to the underground utilities, site circulation, or the building's footprint. Regarding the adaptive reuse, there's no comments for eligibility. There's no comments for minimum size. And then I've already, gone over what is being proposed. The applicant does propose a retail component selling the products that are made within the building. While this is not permitted in the CN mid zoning district. The ordinance does encourage the adaptive reuse of non-residential structures within a residential zoning district. And the reuse of this building will assist in activating a long vacant space while enhancing the city's creative economy. The production of furniture will also provide city residents with an opportunity to buy products locally, keeping local dollars within the community. Regarding the items to address, the planning commission may want to consider requiring full screening in compliance with 122.634. And then the applicant will need to repair and or replace all pavement material in poor condition. Regarding the site plan criteria and review, I already went over what specifically is being proposed, and there's no items to address here. For building location and site arrangement, I went over, the specifications of the building. It is located in the Midtown neighborhood, which is a highly walkable area, making it easily accessible for pedestrians. There are notably notified parking spaces. However, off-street parking is able to accommodate vehicular travel. The building itself is a non-conforming single-story commercial structure, and the parking situation is also non-conforming. The applicant does propose to decrease impervious surfacing with the installation of a new planting bed in front of the building. Regarding existing nonconformities and nonconformities, this is a list right here. Specifically, I mentioned that the application is not in compliance with 122.634 of screening screening of conflicting land uses, but that is technically an existing nonconformity because the building has historically been used as for a commercial purpose. But the 6 foot, there's a 6 foot, 100% opaque fence that slightly encroaches into the front yard. And that proposal specifically is non-compliant, so that we just need to either be proposed to be compliant or pushed back a little bit. And then in terms of the lighting, there are new wall-mounted fixtures that are proposed. The color temperature appears to be 3,500 Kelvin, and lighting exceeds 0.5 foot candles at the southern lot line. That is what is particularly non-compliant. However, with a future dark sky compliant zoning ordinance, it's very likely that the color temperature will also become a non-conformity with the adoption of a 3,000 Kelvin maximum. So for items to address, the planning commission should waive the requirements for a dumpster enclosure due to site limitations. The proposed photometric plan fails to comply with section 122.609. So we'll need revisions there. And then the property is not fully shielded. Though it's an existing nonconformity, the planning commission is able to require full compliance with 122.634. So regarding site access, traffic, and parking, again, this is in the Midtown neighborhood. It's a highly walkable area. There are no defined parking spaces, and the nearest bus stop is approximately 280 feet away, making the site highly accessible for public transit users. I did note that there are no bike racks proposed. However, when I did send my staff review earlier to the applicant, they did indicate that they will propose a bike rack to accommodate up to 2 bikes in a future plan revision. Regarding the nonconformities, the traffic visibility, the landscape buffer that's proposed to the west appears to create a nonconformity. I'll need to see confirmation that it does not obstruct traffic visibility. I did just list it as non-compliant because I believe it does. I just don't have that full confirmation. And then the other thing that was technically non-compliant would be the motor spaces. Ultimately, this is a change of use. So the parking requirements do change, and a minimum of 3 spaces are required, but this property is located in walkable urban districts, and so that requirement ultimately is halved to 1.5, but because it's 1.5, it then rounds up to 2. Fortunately, the planning commission has the ability to waive parking requirements when up to 20% when a lot is located within 750 feet of a transit stop. And so when you take that 1.5, multiply it by 0.2, you then bring the decimal below 0.5, which then means that only one would be required. So I am recommending approval of that waiver. So yeah, that's listed here regarding the waiver, and then the planning commission should consider requiring 2 bike racks, but again, the applicant indicated that they would install one that could accommodate up to 2 bikes. Regarding stormwater and engineering is not needed. Other department and agency approvals, same as with the usual application for the building department and the Department of Public Works. And then there's the master plan considerations. Here's some images of the existing site conditions. And then this is staff's recommendation, which is approval with conditions. So, yeah.
Thanks. Before we go any further, I have a bit of news that the name looks familiar to me, the applicant. So I just double checked, and it would appear that my firm did some work for Mr. Wazinski. We did not broker a transaction, but we did provide, I think, a valuation on the property. It's not really a direct conflict of interest, but I wanted to disclose it, and then I'll leave it up to the planning commission whether or not I should abstain here. If I do that, we no longer have quorum for this issue, so I will leave it up to the body to decide or ask questions. Sorry, the name, I just looked at the name, I don't usually, but
I personally don't have a problem with, mainly because you're the chair and you can't make the motion anyway, so I'm fine.
as well. Good. And to be clear, I've never met Mr. Wazinski. An agent of my firm was working with him, so that's why I barely recognized the name.
I think that, thanks for adding that context. I don't think that it was an obvious appearance. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are safe then. Thank you for the report. Are there? Well, I'm gonna take this, I think, a little out of order. And then let's go to the applicant to present the case. And then we'll do questions at the end.
I'm gonna unmute your architect so they can talk further, but also feel free to talk about the project narrative overall of what y'all are proposing.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Zinski, a resident of the neighborhood a mile away from the proposed site. What I'm proposing is taking a building that has basically been not used over the last 20 years. It's all there's some of the areas of those pictures and being able to create arts and crafts retail workspace with a workspace component where some of the items will be made. There's also going to be in this retail space part of the Ypsilanti wood talk, woodworking club.
Oh, could you speak up, like speak in the mic a little?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
Part of the Ypsilanti woodworking group called Wood Talk, and there will be selling there will be articles there as well as local other arts and crafts people within the community. The workspace, while there will be I think it's just address the noise concern forefront. Well, there will be tools to like tables, stuff like that. I work primarily with hand tools. So one of the examples that I give Josh, like there's a lamp that I made that took approximately 50 to 60 hours to create, and there was about 20 minutes of total power usage during it. So So of the time that I'm working on this stuff, it is power tools, a lot of hand tools. Hand sanding, usually, all that kind of stuff. Further, my wife and I, Josh had brought up the concern of the noise. My wife and I had done the ad hoc study where I brought in a circular saw space, because right now it's empty space. And I brought a circular saw down there and ran it in the space where the tools are going to be, and it's running at the same sound level. And my wife's outside with the decibel meter, testing various spots. Because it's mostly brick, it's 1929, it's, a thick brick. You actually, around the brick, you couldn't even hear saw run. So, and this is also, mind you, this is also a space that has, it's plank, it's on the interior, it's just brick right now. I'm proposing to put in drywall, which has been insulation, which is further assists in sound reduction. We did try all around the building to try to find, what was the biggest indoor-outdoor variance. And we were able to get that. There was a separate garage. We were at the garage door. I was on the inside of the garage door, the power saw, she was on the outside. And the sound variance at that point was like if you were running it back, that level of sound. And again, that's very intermittent throughout the manufacturing process. And we also noted that the traffic going by was at a higher sound level. So this is, to me, this is an exciting project because it's enhancing the part of the community. I want it to be very much a part of the community. I'd like to have classes at some point in my 5-year plan around the years 3 to 4 to be able to have classes to bring the community into this. I've talked to people in the neighborhood already. We're relatively new people to the neighborhood. I've talked to some people like my guys from our woodworking group, as well as a couple other people that are excited that have interest in this stuff too, that are part of that too. So that's really important, is that the community aspect of it as well. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of what.
Thank you. Is there anything from the architect?
Hi everyone. Elise Deschard from END Studio. I am Steve's architect on the project and joining you from Zoom because I had a meeting that I couldn't make it to Ypsilanti in time for this meeting. I think that what Steve is talking about, where the potential noise concerns with the project, I think that they've done a good job of evaluating, but just to say that all of the power tools in this, like the front of the building will be retail, and we didn't see the plan, Josh's presentation, but the front of the building will be retail, and so the power tools will be kind of twice removed from the storefront, which would be the place where the sound transmission would happen most. We also will be replacing the windows with new windows, which will have a much higher STC rating than the current windows. And like said, we're planning to insulate the exterior perimeter walls, and so that should provide some sound dampening as well with the drywall as well. The one item that the screening, I think, Josh, perhaps we can have a conversation about this because the screening requirements seem to be at odds with the requirements for not blocking a driveway because the site is so tight. And I think we might have to just workshop that a little bit. And then the other item that came up is the 0.5 foot candles at the site perimeter. And we ran multiple tests with our engineer on the lighting levels. And because of the size of the property, it does not seem to be mathematically possible to get to 0.5 at the perimeter without going below the minimum that's required for the entire site. And I think right now we're hovering at about 0.8. So I think we'll need, again, like a little bit of variation there to be able to either go slightly below the minimum or slightly above the 0.5 at the lot line, just because mathematically it's not possible given the size of the lot. But we think it's a really exciting project, and I think that Steve's mission of bringing the community in and potentially having classes and working with the local craft guilds will make it a really great asset for the community, as well as having a small retail shop that reinvigorates this abandoned storefront. So open to questions if you have them.
Thanks very much. Yeah, thank you. And we'll move to, before we move to open the public comment, we're gonna do some questions or fact finding from the commission. So commissioners feel free to ask questions. Just as a reminder, we're not getting into the merits of the application. But if you need more information, now is the time to ask.
I'm curious if the applicant would be willing to ensure that the lighting conforms to the color regulations that are expected to be passed with the dark sky ordinance.
So like maximum 3,000 Kelvin.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a new regulation that we weren't aware was coming down the pipeline. But we can certainly change out the lighting fixture and find something that complies.
Yeah, are there any other questions?
Question. You want an electronic message sign?
An electronic
Yeah,
sign?
do you now, or would you in the future?
No, I mean, like one of those big bright thingies.
Yeah.
No, I'm planning on, actually one of the minimalist signs.
Okay. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Maybe something made of wood. Okay. Hearing no further questions, a motion would be in order to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved and supported, all in favor,
Aye.
any opposed? Okay, so if you are online and you would like to speak, please, ready yourself and get your hand raised. Before I move to you, I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this matter. Please.
This is Spencer Michaud. I'm here with my partner, Tanya Andrews. We live at 5 North Summit Street, which is basically backs into the back of this property at 908 North Congress. We share a lot line with this property. We have a lot of concerns about the noise, the light, and the parking situation. There's basically one parking spot for this building at 908 North Congress, and all of that overflow traffic sometimes comes into our back lot, which we are trying to prevent. As far as the noise concerns, that back part of the building is going to back right into our backyard, and we've heard when people have been working on this, when they've been working on the Little Bird Cafe, it's extremely loud with the power tools that comes and disturbs not only number 1, but number 5 right next door. Also concerned about the lighting. We've been installing a lot of native pollinator habitat. Having those lights on all night long would disturb the plants as well. And the dark sky ordinance is something that we are strongly in favor of. So we have a lot of concerns about hours of operation, noise, parking, and the light pollution that this project seems like it would push forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to speak about 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name's Daryl Hawley, longtime resident in the neighborhood. Been here since 2001, so, working on 25 years. Ever since I moved into the neighborhood. We first moved in and had to carry out, Little Red store, I think is what it was called. And it wasn't really great. It seemed to be a center of crime. Well, they eventually left, went out to auction, or that building did. Somebody picked it up along the lines, but it's largely just remained vacant. I think people have bought it with intentions, but nothing has ever really been done with this. And what I would love to see, and I think this is the first opportunity that I know of, that somebody has like a real plan, has the means to actually, pull off this plan. And I think it would be a generally good addition to the neighborhood. Now, I did hear Spencer's concerns. I think those things can be addressed. But I'm honestly really excited to have something like this in the neighborhood. Looking back, you know, it's just whenever I walk by there with my wife, always constantly you see this. It's kind of a rundown sort of looking thing. Having something that is just, hey, you know, it's being used, it's being put to productive use. It's locals that are using it, it's locals that are benefiting from it. Personally, very excited about this.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in the room?
Is there anything that's preventing this from becoming residential?
Anyone online?
Hold on. Sorry, I don't know why this keeps. Is.
Okay, there's no one additional.
No, just for some reason it's letting people speak even though I'm muting them. So,
Okay, motion would be in order to close public comment.
Second.
So moved and supported, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. So I guess we'll try this out. Are there any further questions for staff or any further questions about the PUD? Any other questions about the staff recommendation? Is there a motion to approve or deny so that we can discuss the merits?
I would like to make a motion to the planning commission. We approve the adaptive reuse PUD at 908 North Congress with the following findings, waivers, and conditions. One, the finding is that the application substantially complies with section 122-309, 311, 702, 703, and 706. With the following waivers. One, the approval of a waiver from the dumpster enclosure requirements established in section 122-608. Two, the approval of a 20% waiver from the parking requirements established in section 122-691. Due to the site's highly walkable location and adequate access to public transportation. And with the following conditions. One, the applicant shall ensure that the fence along the eastern property line complies with section 122-442. Two, the applicant shall revise the photometric plan, ensuring the levels do not exceed a half a foot candle from the lot line. Additionally, outdoor lighting shall not exceed a maximum color temperature of 3000 Kelvin. Three, the applicant shall propose additional landscaping along the western property line to further comply with section 122-634. Four, the applicant shall install a bike rack able to accommodate 2 bikes at minimum. Five, the applicant shall remove the vegetation growing from the expansion joints of the sidewalk to prevent further sidewalk decay. 6, the applicant shall repair and or replace all concrete surfaces in poor condition. 7, if the refuse pickup is determined to be insufficient due to multiple code violations within 365 days, the city planner may require a revised waste management plan. And 8, the development is subject to the approval of the building department, and the work done within the public right of way shall receive approval from the departments of public works.
Okay. Moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
Wondering if we should add any amendments in regarding flexibility around the photometric plan and the flexibility with letting the city determine where the line is when it comes to them adhering to both requirements around the screening and the don't screen too much. I feel like that's something that the city could decide.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, a desire to discuss, some leeway for staff to address the issues that the architect mentioned around lighting and screening. Does anyone else have any questions, issues with that? If you'd like to make a motion to amend, you're welcome to do so. We will all have to vote on it. Well, I'm hearing no motion.
I think I'm good with, with the conditions, I think they. Oh, you covered it, okay.
Josh, do you feel like you would need anything from us in order to address the concerns the architect raised?
No, I mean, ultimately, one of the things I could do is that, if the, site designer shows that there is just absolutely no way to, address the, foot candles exceeding 0.5 at the lot line in order to keep, adequate lighting throughout the site, I could, require some type of letter, with their, like a letter or something with their credentials, like explaining exactly why, the application cannot meet that specific, requirement. But also like, I mean, that's kind of like my primary idea ultimately. I'm not really sure if there truthfully is a ton of wiggle room other than just having a letter just that states that is just mathematically not possible.
Is there any? Are there any solutions also? Around like shielding lighting, especially as it relates to the neighboring residential lot line?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine shielding can do a whole lot. Now, I mean, again, it's kind of like, ultimately I'm not somebody who designs photometric plans, but I would imagine that there are ways to shield it or to shield the lighting so that it's not glaring onto neighboring properties and not exceeding the foot candle requirements in the ordinance. Which, as you know, it's already a requirement in our present lighting ordinance and will become stricter in the new ordinance.
I can address that briefly if there's space for me to do so. Because there is,
Not at this time, I'm sorry, we have a motion on the floor.
okay.
Okay, so. Yeah, I'm assuming that the answer can't be that the site can't ever be developed because of our rules, so. Is there any other discussion on the merits of the motion here? Okay, hearing none, will you call the roll, please, Mr. Berman?
Yeah, Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis Jr., Commissioner Hollyfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodring.
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 487 Orndale Street, single family residential R1 to neighborhood in C, additional rezoning.
Yes.
Presentation.
All right, so the applicant is proposing a conditional rezoning for a lot at 487 Owendale. The property is 0.138 acres or approximately 6,011 square feet. The property is presently zoned R1, single family residential, and the property owner wishes to rezone the parcel to NC neighborhood corridor. They would like to rezone this in order to expand the parking lot accessory to the gas station and vehicle repair shop at 1465 Washtenaw. In addition to the parking lot expansion, the applicant is also proposing to install EV charging stations. Presently, 487 Owendale is vacant except for a non-conforming accessory structure, which is the garage. Arborvitae's nearly wrap around the entirety of the lot line, creating a substantial visual barrier between the property and public view. There is quite a lengthy history with this property. In 2002, Musa Enterprises acquired the existing filling station and auto repair shop at 1465 Washtenaw. Along with the acquisition, Musa Enterprises reached out to the planning department and they were inquiring about the permitted uses for the property to the south, 487 Owendale. Nathan Boat, who was the former planner at the time, informed the owner that 487 Owendale could not be used commercially as it was zoned R1. The property ended up being purchased anyways by Musa Enterprises, and they began to chop down an evergreen tree between the two properties, which led to the city filing an emergency circuit court complaint to prevent the removal of any additional trees. The court would later require Musa Enterprises to draw up a site plan, which they approved for the two properties in 2006. It is important to note that the court-approved site plan does not comply with the present zoning standards. In 2009, the applicant requested to rezone 487 Owendale from R1 to B2, which is a similar zoning district to the neighborhood corridor. And ultimately, that rezoning request was denied because it was not supported by the master plan, and the proposed land use is not compatible with the neighboring uses. Later in 2021, Musa Enterprises applied again to rezone 487 Owendale, this time from R1 to neighborhood corridor, as they're proposing now. And the city planner at the time recommended denial of the planning commission for similar reasons up to the 2009 denial. Musa Enterprises ultimately withdrew their application from the agenda before the planning commission could review and decide on that application. Regarding the applicant's proposals, I've included the request and then the voluntary conditions. Regarding the items to address, 1465 Washtenaw anchors a non-conforming use. The language in the proposed in condition to may negate non-conforming regulations regarding abandonment established in 122-348, and the language proposed in condition 3 may negate the regulations regarding expansion of non-conforming uses in section 122-348. The applicant voluntarily provides condition 4 that any subsequent site plan shall also include the minimum required ADA parking spaces. This condition isn't particularly needed because that would have already been a requirement anyways. Condition 5 states that any subsequent site plan submitted shall include integration of green space. Again, or the language should instead state something along the lines of any subsequent site plan submitted shall integrate green space subject to city approval. Ultimately, it is a requirement to have green space. So that would have been a requirement. Condition 6 is also unnecessary because the zoning ordinance already establishes regulations for screening between conflicting land uses. And then if the planning commission and city council approve the conditional rezoning, vehicular access should not be expanded along Owendale to minimize conflicts between the commercial use and the residential character of the surrounding neighborhood. So the surrounding land uses are primarily single-family residential, except for to the north of the property and to the east of the property. Regarding the zoning and city framework, presently the property is zoned to R1 as stated before, and the city framework map, which is our substitution of a future land use map, shows that the property is to remain an outlying neighborhood. In the master plan itself, as I mentioned, it labels 487 Owendale as an outlying neighborhood and 1465 Washtenaw within the corridors. And then according to the master plan, the outlying neighborhoods were built in the middle or later part of the 20th century and were designed as areas for a single type of housing, either single family or multifamily. These neighborhoods are adjacent to corridors, but the street network is designed to carry traffic into the neighborhood, not through it. Any non-residential uses other than schools or parks are located at the edges, not embedded within the adopted plan. Conversion of the subject property to neighborhood corridor directly conflicts with the intentions of the city framework map. As stated above, the outlying neighborhoods are found adjacent to major transportation corridors such as Washington Avenue. Though 47 Owendale is directly adjacent to a property within the neighborhood corridor, the outlying neighborhoods were designed for a single type of housing. Commercial uses other than schools or parks are generally not permitted, meaning the expansion of the parking lot serving 1465 Washtenaw will lead to an encroachment of a non-residential use onto a property intended to be used as a single type of housing. Regarding the rezoning implications, the R1 zoning district allows for the lowest intensity residential uses such as single-family detached dwellings, two-family dwellings, on corner lots only, parks, community gardens, etc. Zoning ordinance states that the district is designed to provide an environment for predominantly low-density, single-family detached dwellings, along with related facilities such as schools and religious institutions. The use chart for the R1 zoning district can be found in the Planning Commission packet. And then for the neighborhood corridor, this district is intended to allow for low to mid-intensity commercial uses. And the zoning ordinance states that these have a linear land pattern and are adjacent to residential neighborhoods. The size, form, and scale of buildings and the type and intensity of uses should be complementary to the abutting single-family or core neighborhoods, including less intense multiple-family residential building types and uses. I wanted to particularly point out a specific section of the ordinance 122-348. And that states that a non-conforming use of land, ultimately it has regulations that define non-conforming uses of land. 1465 is a legal non-conformity. Ultimately, the property, the filling station itself is not the non-conforming aspect, but the repair aspect of the property is the non-conformity. And so ultimately it does state that non-conformity is not permitted to expand beyond the area it presently occupies. And then also you cannot change that existing non-conforming use. So that is why I ultimately mentioned that the approval of this rezoning would directly conflict with 122-348. For rezoning considerations, the applicant provided 10 voluntary conditions. The rezoning voluntary conditions are not consistent with the master plan, guiding values, and city framework map. Rezoning 487 Owendale would not be consistent, with the city's, I apologize, I'm repeating myself. And expanding the parking lot as accessory to a non-conforming use is also not permitted. Lastly, the property is likely overparked just because of our parking maximums that we have established in the zoning ordinance. So it's criteria 3. Will there be any the rezoning could potentially have negative environmental effects on the site and neighboring on the site and neighboring sites. However, that is not something that was something that would be, reviewed during engineering. The proposed rezoning would change the property from a Euclidean-based zoning district to a form-based zoning district. And the applicant wishes to expand parking, which is not defined as a building type. And the site also, sorry, I'm realizing I repeated a lot of this during my review. Or throughout my review. Owendale Street is also a residential street, and it's accustomed to residential traffic and lower levels of on-street parking. A commercial use on Owendale would greatly increase traffic, on-street parking, and overall usage of that residential street. And this is a lot more the same things that I have been discussing. One thing to keep in mind is that while the R1 zoning district does not outline the required building type, R1 developments tend to be 2-story single-family detached dwellings with required minimum front, rear, and side setbacks. The neighborhood corridor zoning district can allow for a wide variety of residential building types, but hypothetically also allows for up to a commercial and or mixed use medium building type, like density media, building type, which means that we could see a 5-story building constructed on the lot if they wish to do so. These should not have any significant impacts on city infrastructure or services. The rezoning may decrease the desirability and property values of the surrounding neighborhood. And the rezoning and voluntary conditions are not consistent with the trends of development in the surrounding area of the neighborhood. Then here's the image for the existing site conditions of 487 Owendale, and then this is the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to, is the applicant here? Thanks, would you like to address the body?
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Musa. Thank you for having me here today. So I'm presenting on behalf of my family's business. Regarding the 487 Owendale property and the gas station and auto shop located right adjacent to that. So the situation's been going on since 2004. That's the year I was born. So it's pretty old, I could say that. But what we're planning to do is, okay, so first thing I want to say is that the two rezonings that we applied for in 2009 and 2021, those were rezoning applications. They weren't conditional rezonings. We have never had the intention of it standing as an NC parcel on its own. And this is why we're proceeding with conditional rezoning. We want to define exactly what we want to do and what kind of restrictions we have. And we'll go through that. Also, I want to emphasize that this wasn't included in the staff review, but this was about half my application. We're not expanding a non-conforming use. The argument I have is that there's actually a non-conforming accessory use on the rear lot that's allowed by the court order. So that accessory use would be a driveway and using that accessory structure. And then the ordinance in 122349 allows us to produce non-conformities, and also section 122683 considers lots adjacent to each other that are non-conforming in size to be considered as one for zoning considerations. That would include reductions in non-conformities. So essentially what I'm saying is that we have 3 non-conforming uses across 3 lots that we want to go do to non-conforming uses. Also, the court approved site plans, I mean, they're not great. And it's definitely not ideal for the city. There's 32 parking spaces, and I wish there was, I could present the site plan, but it's really it's really non-conforming in any way to even the minimum ADA spaces, and that's why I included that condition. Yes, so section 122347D has applied directly to the situation of the 3 lots. The section specifically requires that the lots be considered a single lot for the purposes of non-conformity reductions. So when this property was bought, it was actually non-conforming in size to R1 requirements back in 2002. And the court order is designed where it's not buildable as an R1 structure. And what we're proposing is decreasing the extent of the non-conforming accessory use, since there's no principal structure there. I also want to mention that I think the staff report said that there was once a house there. There's never been a house there. I've looked extensively through the records, and if there was one, it would be a lot easier. We don't have a curb cut driveway there either. What this property essentially was a second garage to the adjacent house directly next to it. Also, from what it appears, and going through the archives of Washtenaw County, it appears that a developer came and kind of shifted the whole development trend, where they took the house directly adjacent to the property, and then half the lot adjacent to that, and that caused each house to be around 1.5 lots, starting from the house right next to it. And then That's the result of, and that was the result of having this non-conforming in size, parcel. So, obviously, the whole area right now, the non-conforming use of a gas station and auto shop. And, the non-conforming accessory use is an eyesore. I don't think there's any discussion or debate about that. Also, the current site plan is something we're not fully conforming to. A reason of that is that the site plan wants us to take out the sidewalk that, connects the rear residential lot with the commercial lot. That's something we can do, but it's really something we don't want to. And we see that rezoning this to be an extension of a parking lot offering an EV station is a good solution to the whole area in general across the 3 lots. So yeah, personally, I'm not a planner, and I've been working on this for about just short of a year. I've been speaking to people, trying to get people's insight. It's been reported in MLive, it's been reported in the Eastern Echo, and we sent out flyers to kind of get input what the idea of the residents about this was, and it seems that everyone wants something to change without question, and yeah, so. That being said, we do have a response rate. We had a 94% approval rate, and that's from 33 responses. We also had a bunch of comments. Specifically, we had 27 comments. I will just mention the 2 negative ones so that we could address those. The rest were positive. One was saying that offering an EV station would probably put a load on the electric grid. We're only gonna offer level 2 chargers, and those are not considered superchargers. There shouldn't be a big load on that. And then the other one was, with the problem of accessibility on the sidewalk of Washington Avenue. And that's actually something we can't control, but that's luckily being addressed through the Reimagine Washington project. So the goals of Reimagine Washington, since we went through that, that includes, growing mixed use neighborhoods. Also, I think this project would help integrate the transportation aspect in the outlying neighborhoods definition, as opposed to kind of just having a garage that we can have a driveway to, use it as a non-conforming accessory residential use. So yeah, in a sense, what we're proposing is a reduction in non-conformities across the 3 lots. I had a presentation, but basically the way I can explain this is that there's a restaurant right of the adjacent lot, and that one is actually deeper than we are by about 20 feet. The whole parcel, by the way, is 50 feet wide, and 20 feet of those are court required burn. So I will emphasize that, this keeping it as this is not, I don't think it's ideal for the city, it's not ideal for us. What we're proposing is something that probably will have a similar amount of parking spots to what exists right now on 1465 Washington, but laid across to the 2 parcels with careful buffering considerations. Yeah, as it pertains to having commercial traffic on Owendale, I mean, we wouldn't mind having a release of right of way from that parcel if this rezoning gets, I could add that in the conditions. We would be happy to modify the conditions as well to add the language recommended. That includes removing the ADA parking spaces. The reason I had the ADA clause to begin with was because there's no sidewalk between the 2. So we wanted to, part of the conditions say there's gonna be an ADA sidewalk and ADA parking spaces. And because the court mandated parking lot doesn't actually meet the state minimums currently for ADA spaces. Yeah, I think that's one.
Thank you. Are there any questions or fact finding from commissioners?
Apologies, you probably already stated this, but for my clarity, if you were to get your conditional rezoning, would you or would you not be putting in a sidewalk to connect Owendale to Washington there?
Just to be clear, there is a sidewalk right now, and the court mandated site plan does not allow sidewalk. So we didn't take out that sidewalk, and we're not totally complying to the, to the site, and what we're proposing is reaching to a mutual new site plan with the city through this conditional rezoning. And, offering these conditions to make sure that this actually happens. Part of the conditions obviously are not expanding any structures. We also said that there's not gonna be any, service space or gas station or, fuel pumps in the rear. So, this really wouldn't be expanding the use, and if anything, we could say this could be expanding of one of the uses, which is, the overflow parking for the auto shop. We wouldn't be expanding both, obviously, there.
There's already a sidewalk on Owendale?
Yeah, there's already a sidewalk on Owendale, believe it or not, and the site plan, I wish it was here, but the site plan kind of omits that.
So is there just a maintenance issue with like the trees and stuff there that it like can't normally get through, but there is concrete on the?
Yeah, I mean, there is concrete and then the tree's right next to it.
Okay.
So, when the court, ruled that that site plan be, what we comply to, we put it right next to the sidewalk, so that it's kind of in the way of the sidewalk. And there was also a street tree directly, blocking the sidewalk. We asked that be removed and it still hasn't been, grounded, but, yeah, I guess that's one of the main aspects that we want to address through like a mutual new site plan. And, yeah, I mean, also in regards to nonconformities, there is, back in 2002, there were a bunch of nonconformities. The lot size was nonconforming. Also, there were major and minor auto repair designations that no longer exist. All that was, taken to court, and the only remaining nonconformity on the property is in an auto shop and a gas station being used to get either or is allowed in neighborhood corridor. Just them existing together is not allowed. So I think across these three laws, if we reduce the nonconformities, it would actually make the, the area a lot better.
Okay, any additional questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I got one, how would you, or what would be your plan to restrict, customer travel down Orndale? I mean, so it appears right now that you're using part of that property to drive up, looks like on the curb across the sidewalk to get in there. So, what's your plan for that area to reduce traffic from that direction?
So yeah, I mean, we're more than happy to offer a release of right of way for that parcel, so there would be no driveway to kind of get in there. We won't be directing commercial traffic into there. So the whole directing would kind of be around, where you could turn around the lot and go out from like the existing Washington exits basically. And yeah, I mean, the court allows us to get a driveway, and it allows us to, and it orders the city as well to not consider it an expansion of a non-conforming use. So if we do get a driveway for that garage, it would just be a use that's non-conforming. There's no principal structure there. And it would be very hard, even though now, the kind of size requirements have changed, the lot can technically be residential, barely. It's very hard to get, within the setbacks, required, so.
Are there any further questions? I do have one for staff, and what are the odds of this ever becoming a single family structure again?
It's entirely possible. The site fully meets all lot dimensional requirements now. Now I don't remember off the top of my head what the lot width itself is. I believe it's around 50.
It's 40.
It's 49. Let me check what our city records indicate, because I recall it being something different. Apologize, let me pull up the dimensional.
I have 44 feet. That's what I'm on that one.
So the lot itself is dimensionally, it states that it's 50 by 120. When I go to the R1 district lot requirements, that states that the minimum width is 30 feet, so it certainly meets that requirement. In terms of side yard setbacks, it's a combined total of 12 feet. And rear and front yard setbacks are 25 feet. And so with that average of 120 feet in terms of lot depth, the property could easily be utilized as a single family prop structure.
Able to add to that or?
Go for it.
So actually, the main problem is that we have a 20-foot required berm. And that makes it 30 feet. If the city is open to changing that buffer requirement, because that's court ordered, we can't. Really, the lot is 30 feet realistically. So and that's the only lot, on Washington Ave between the neighborhood corridor and R1 designation that has a 20 feet. berm.
But if you sold the parcel,
Yes,
it would revert, there wouldn't be a court mandate.
there would, and part of the settlement was if we sell it, we would have to take a 20 feet, we would have to make a 20 feet, wide berm on the 1465 Washington.
On 1465, but on 487 Owendale.
Yeah.
That doesn't have the berm requirement on that. That's just on the Washtenaw portion.
Well, no, the settlement requires the 20 feet anyway. So if we sell it, we'd be eliminating around 15 parking spaces of the 31 parking spaces for 1460.
Okay.
And I mean, we're more than happy to put a 6-foot fence. That's what everyone had between neighborhood corridor and R1, but we just can't, you know? That's the current situation.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, a motion would be in order to open the public hearing. Thank you.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, if you are, we're gonna start with people in the room. However, if you are online and would like to comment on this item, please ready yourself. If anyone in the room would like to speak, you'll have 3 minutes to do so starting now. See no one in the room, is there anyone online?
If you would like to speak during the public comment, raise your hand on Zoom, please.
Okay, hearing none, motion would be in order to close the public hearing. Moved
Second.
and supported, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, I'm guessing there are not going to be any further questions since there was no public comment to address it. So, is there, well, is anyone feeling any particular way about approval or denial?
I have thoughts.
Let's hear what you have, if you are considering a motion, that is.
Yes, so first, yeah, speak up a little bit, sorry. It is zoned as residential and that is the main reason for me to want to make a motion. To deny the proposal for rezoning 487 Owendale Street to neighborhood corridor with the following the findings found in the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion, is there any support?
Support.
Moved and supported, is there any discussion on the merits of the motion?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, I have a understanding of what the applicants talked about, and I've seen the stuff on their site, the potential site plan, and the charging plan. I think it would be beneficial. Fortunately, I think there's the limitations with these two non-conformity and something other than extending that non-conformity onto more parts of the two different parcels in perpetuity has to be the solution.
Anyone else?
So just to clarify, the motion was the staff recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay,
As noted.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, there's no one else, I do,
Read them off if you want.
no, I do have a, I do have a sort of a concern, I guess most people know my feelings about single family residential, so I'll spare you all that, but, this is, I mean, this looks like something that's ready to happen now. In the alternative, the alternative is essentially to wait until hopefully something happens maybe. And I think we just heard with the berm situation, it seems like either it's gonna stay on the 47 side, or there's no incentive for them to ever sell it. Which really means nothing's gonna happen on the site, so. It sort of reminds you of the 908 Congress, either something can happen or nothing can happen, and that's, I think those are the realistic options. Yeah, I mean, I do understand the non-conformity, I do understand the, that it's single family residential, but. We do also have to make our land actually work and do things, and this is not doing anything, it's just a abandoned garage that used to belong to the house next door. And a denial, I think, is just perpetuating that until something, and I don't think anything's coming.
Well, that's a counterpoint, so I love to do counterpoints. Staff earlier this year asked us to, how much we wanted to, update master plan. I wanted a full master plan update. We agreed to a medium update, so I think there's a realistic world, obviously it's not gonna happen right now in front of us, that the community says, we don't care about these buffer spaces, we don't care about adjacent properties, we want more housing, we want more dense housing, we want more types of housing. And if we were to take that and allow triplexes or fourplexes by right, all of a sudden 47 Owendale becomes much more valuable property to sell. So I think there is a realistic medium term future where a housing development that's denser than single family is realistic on the Owendale section. So I don't disagree with what you're saying either, I just think there's a.
Thank you, they would have to have an incentive to sell. And right now, selling it would mean they have to move the buffer to their side and lose the parking spaces. Okay, if there are no further questions, if there's no further debate on the motion, we call the roll, please, Mr. Burns.
Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
Yes.
Commissioner Hollyfield,
Opposed.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodring.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Moving on, the next item, we have some old business here. The next item is 775 South Grove Street. This is the drive-through pharmacy and doctor's office, site plan and special use application.
Yeah, so I'm not going to particularly go into too many details about this application because it was here last month. Surrounding land uses are the same. This was the special use criteria that we went over. And then what I did want to go over were how the applicant addressed many of the planning commission's conditions of postponement. And they included 6 bike spaces. There's a reduction of some of the impervious surfacing. There's installation of a sidewalk along Emmerich Street. The relocation of the dumpster enclosure. There's a compliant loading zone that's proposed. They propose to repair and or replace the asphalt in poor condition. They demonstrated that the drive-through can accommodate walk-up and bike users. They show one-way signage, wheel stops are provided for each parking space. They ensured that traffic visibility is sufficient and they provided a compliant photometric plan. Again, these are, pictures from last month. And then there's no items to address regarding the requirements for the site plan. The only thing I wanted to go over, I guess, in terms of the nonconformity is that the applicant will need to verify that using truck turning templates, that the refuse truck can collect trash without interfering with parking. Presently, I've seen truck turning templates, but I've not seen an indication that the refuse truck is able to collect the trash without interfering with the parking that is to the east of it. And then the other thing is that I will need dumpster enclosure design specs indicating compliance with 122-608, but actually I think I might have maybe gotten that. But we can double check that in the list of conditions. And then there's further existing nonconformities. There's the same engineering. There's no engineering that is required, and then there's the same discussion about the building department and the Department of Public Works. Here's the master plan considerations, images that were shown last month. And then these are the new conditions for the special use, or recommended conditions for the special use, or recommended motions, I apologize, for the special use and site plan. So I know I breezed through that. Ultimately, that was mostly because things changed. They addressed a lot of our comments, but the overall review itself, there wasn't a lot to address. And I did need the design specs for the dumpster.
Okay, are there any questions for? Yeah,
Is that something that you need now or later, with the ability for the garbage truck to maneuver?
Oh, no, that can be, that's something that I could administratively review and look at. Now, keep in mind, if it is determined that the refuse truck is interfering with some of the parking spaces, that could either lead to the relocation of the dumpster enclosure or removal of some parking spaces. Honestly, probably the removal of some parking spaces would work the best, just because the site has limitations in terms of where the dumpster enclosure can go, and the site is already considered overparked. And so the removal of some parking spaces will not create a new nonconformity, but rather bring the site closer in conformance with the ordinance.
any other questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, the motion would be in order. What is it?
To make a motion to the planning commission that approve the special use permit for the drive-through pharmacy at 775 South Grove with the following findings and condition. One, the finding, the application substantially applies with section 122-324 and 326. And condition, the special use approval shall be subject to the approval of the site.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion for the motion? Hearing none, Mr. Burns, will you call the roll, please?
Yeah, Commissioner Jones-Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis Jr.,
Yes.
Commissioner Hollyfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Woodring.
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, motion would be in order to consider the site plan.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the site plan, at 775 South Grove Street with the following findings and conditions. One, the finding that the application substantially complies with section 122-309, 311. And the conditions, one, the applicant shall verify using truck turning templates that a refuse truck can collect trash without interfering with parking. 2, the applicant shall provide dumpster enclosure design specifications indicating compliance with section 122.608. 3, the development is subject to the approval of the building department, the historic district commission.
It's not, that was just a generalization. It's not subject to the approval of the Historic District Commission or engineering.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me restate the third finding, or excuse me, third condition. The development is subject to the approval of the building department, and any work done within the existing right of way shall receive approval from the Department of Public Works.
It's been moved
Support.
and supported. Well, let's give it to Ms. Smith. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Mr. Brunswick, call the roll, please.
Yeah, Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Dix Jr., Commissioner Hollyfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
and then Commissioner Woodbury.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 315 Washington Ave, multifamily renovation project site plan application.
Yeah, so this application was on last month's agenda. Nothing's changed regarding the description of the site project or of the project itself. Surrounding land uses are the same. Ultimately, you know, for the site plan review and criteria, there is one building on the parcel and minimal changes are proposed to the site. Some of the items that either should or maybe should be considered to be addressed would be that the planning commission should waive the requirement for a dumpster enclosure due to the site constraints. The applicant will need to receive approval for the 2 horn beams within the right of way. If utility conflictions exist, then the applicant could replant them potentially elsewhere on site or pay a fee in lieu. And then additional shrubs and or trees would improve the visual appearance of the site. As you can see, there's a few existing nonconformities, but no non-compliance issues regarding this specific section. For site access, traffic, and parking, the site features a gravel driveway, which is not adequate for the proposed use. A parking lot would be required for a quadplex. However, because of the site constraints, ultimately a parking lot is not able to be built on that property. Additionally, the site is located in a highly walkable and bikeable area. And if the planning commission requires pavement in place of the gravel driveway, pervious pavers should be considered to ensure the site is better suited to accommodate increasing rainfall. One of the other things is that the applicant proposed a bike hoop, which can accommodate 2 bikes, but a second bike hoop would be ideal to enhance multimodal accessibility, especially with the lack of vehicular accessibility provided on site. So the items to address would be the installation of impervious pavers in lieu of the gravel driveway and an additional bike hoop. In terms of site plan criteria and review, engineering is not required. And then property is in the historic district, so any work done to the exterior of the building would need historic district approval. And then the same requirements for the building department and the Department of Public Works apply. Here are the master plan considerations, images of the sites, which were seen last month. And then this is staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
In the past, Josh, when this parcel came forward or last month and parcels like it, there's been a lot of discussion about more than 2 residential units on a single car driveway. This we're talking about having 4. And I was just wondering if you could just speak a little bit more to that in your review.
Yeah, so ultimately, the property is presently approved as for 3 dwelling units. And so when you look at the ordinance, and this is, you know, again, my interpretation, when you look at the ordinance, there is the requirement for a parking lot for a triplex and or other commercial uses, but a single family home and a duplex, you can have the driveway. Now, because this site is presently approved as 3 units, the driveway itself is already non-conforming, and so the addition of an extra unit would, I mean, like, the argument is kind of up in the air as to whether or not that would increase a nonconformity or just maintain an existing nonconformity, because ultimately it's already nonconformity, and yes, you're increasing the intensity of the use. But it's already an existing nonconformity, so are we actually increasing a nonconformity? And my interpretation presently is no. And the other thing is there is on-street parking available on Washtenaw, and so even though the site may not be able to accommodate vehicular storage on site, it is possible via Washtenaw Avenue.
Are there any other questions for staff? Hearing none, a motion for consideration would be in order.
I don't know that I don't know how I'm gonna vote on this motion, but I'd be willing to make one with some different conditions. So I would, recommend that the planning commission approve the site plan, for, 315 Washtenaw, subject to the findings, waivers, and conditions. One, the application, substantially complies with section 122, 309, and 311. Waiver, the approval of the waiver from the dumpster enclosure established in section 122, 608. The condition, one, the applicant shall receive approval from the Department of Public Works for the 2 horn beams within the right of way. If the utility constraints exist, the applicant may choose to plant those trees elsewhere on the site or pay a fee in lieu. 2, if the refuse pickup is determined to be insufficient due to multiple code violations within 365 days, the city planner may require a revised waste management plan. 3, the applicant shall install an additional 2 bike loops. 4, the applicant shall pave the gravel driveway with pervious pavers. 5, the applicant shall plant additional shrubs or trees that would improve the visual appearance of the site. 6, the applicant shall repair or replace the existing sidewalk adjacent to the site, or I should say, on the site, subject to approval from the Department of Public Works or Building Department. 7, the development is subject to the approval of the Building Department, the Historic District Commission, and or city engineer, and any work done within the right of way shall receive approval from the Department of Public Works. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Could you pull up the front view of this property?
You want me to just go to the picture itself, or I can also go to Google Street View if you would like.
But this is where we had the issue with the street trees as it related to the electrical overhead wire.
This wasn't,
Or am I mixing that with?
Yeah, that was Michigan first.
Oh, okay.
yeah. But I'm pretty sure there is likely a utility constraint. I believe it's probably a gas line, and that's why I included that language. That would be, flexible, where they could potentially plant trees elsewhere on site or pay the fee in lieu. I'm imagining there's likely, the other reason why I'm imagining that there's likely utility constraints would be, you look at the sidewalk, there's like no street trees along the side, so I'm assuming at this point that there's probably a constraint, but yeah.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Burns, will you call the roll, please?
Yeah, Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis Junior,
Yes.
Commissioner Hollyfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweet,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodring.
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the next item up is 599 South Mansfield, Catalytic Converter Assembly Plant Proposal. Site plan application.
So let me pull that up. The applicant is proposing a catalytic converter assembly plant at 599 South Mansfield. There are site changes that are proposed as part of this application. There are no changes proposed to the building footprint itself. But some of the site improvements would include the installation of an outdoor storage area, a testing area, expansion of parking capacity, and the installation of a retaining wall. The parcel is 4.15 acres or 180,000 square feet. And it is located within the Ypsilanti West Commerce Park area. The property zoning of production, manufacturing, and distribution permits assembly plants and outdoor storage by right unless it's adjacent to a residential zoning district, which in this instance it's not, so the use would not require a special use permit. Presently, there's, the 14,000 square foot metal structure, minimal landscaping, designated parking spaces, and a large asphalt surface that was once utilized for vehicle towing and storage. The Planning Commission did approve a vehicle towing and storage yard at this site on November 16th of 2022. And prior to the vehicle towing and storage use, the property was occupied by Life Gas LLC, which produced and supplied medical gases, including oxygen and nitrogen. Regarding the surrounding land uses, it's all some type of PMD land use, and to the south, there's also I-94. Regarding the requirements, the outdoor storage aspect of the site generally is compliant. The only aspect that's not compliant is that the outdoor storage is proposed partly within the front yard. However, there are site limitations due to this primary structure, significant setback from the front lot line. And so the applicant may want to consider pursuing a variance. Additionally, the outdoor storage is not proposed to be screened in accordance with 122.634, and a chain link fence is not a permitted screening method. Other than that, the remaining requirements for outdoor storage were met. But again, the applicant would need to pursue a variant for the location of the outdoor storage or place it in the rear yard, but again, that's kind of challenging. The outdoor storage area will need to be screened in accordance with 122.634. But also the applicant shall verify what is being stored within the outdoor storage areas, how is it being stored, will it create any noise, pollution, odor, etc. And then the applicant shall verify what is being tested, how is it being tested, will it create any noise, pollution, odor, etc. Regarding building location and site arrangements, I've gone over all of this information. The site improvements does include the installation of a 45,000 square foot outdoor storage area, a testing area, expansion of parking capacity, and a cross lot access drive between 575 South Mansfield and 599 South Mansfield. Keep in mind that 575 is owned by the applicant at 599. And there's also the installation of the retaining wall. I think at its highest point, it's about 7 feet. And the applicant does also propose cleaning up the site and installing additional landscaping to improve the overall looks and conditions. Here are the existing nonconformities and non-conforming aspects. There are additional impervious surfaces that are included. It appears impervious surface coverage is about 76.2%. However, the applicant would need to confirm this on the plans. The and that's not non-conforming per se, I just need to know that specific number. Regarding control of heat, glare, fumes, dust, you know, I would need a little bit more information on how, this would be addressed. There are no changes that are proposed to the, dumpster enclosure. But 122.608 does require an ultra commercial use to comply with the required standards, and it's unclear whether or not the enclosure presently complies with those standards. Lighting is an existing nonconformity. Street trees are also an existing nonconformity. The planning commission may want to kind of look into the barbed wire that presently exists on some of the fence that is presently not allowed in the zoning ordinance. Or is presently not allowed for fences unless the planning commission provides a waiver, because it would be in the best interest of public safety. Moving forward to site access, there were a few comments I had. The applicant proposes reconfiguring the parking lot to increase the number of parking spaces from 13 to 25. The proposed paving over the landscape area in front of the building to accommodate heavy duty vehicles. Or, sorry, yeah, these are just the general comments for the proposed conditions, but there's the sidewalk requirement, for example. There's not a sidewalk that presently exists and none is proposed. A sidewalk would be required along North Mansfield or South Mansfield. Access to the property, the northernmost section of the parking and spaces abutting the west side of the building do not have a designated walkways throughout the parking lot, and the parking spaces abutting the west side of the building are an existing nonconformity. However, the northernmost parking spaces that are proposed don't have that, they don't have that access, so that is a non-compliant matter. And then wheel stops are not provided for the parking spaces. That is also a non-conformity. The minimum required amount of parking spaces is 28. 13 presently exist and 25 are proposed. Technically, this is an existing non-conformity, and they are increasing the number of parking spaces, so it's coming closer into conformance. Bicycle spaces, 2 exist. There are none that are proposed, so this is a non-conformity because 5 are required. The proposed parking area on the proposed northernmost parking area is not protected by curved islands, and so that is non-compliant, but the existing parking spaces that don't have that parking island, those are an existing non-conformity. So again, these are the same requirements that I kind of went over, or items to be addressed. One of the things I wanted to really highlight is that the site does not appear to adequately and safely accommodate non-motorized transportation. In areas where plant operations may interfere with non-motorized transportation, the applicant may want to consider installing a defined non-motorized path, high visibility crosswalks, lighting, and or signing. Again, there's also the requirement for wheel stops and curbing for the proposed northernmost parking area. And overall, that was like the primary concern, is just ensuring that we have safe and adequate access for pedestrians within the entire parking lot, so that there's not any chance of conflicts between plant operations and pedestrians. Site plan criteria review, engineering is required, so that's a mistake on my presentation, and the site would also be subject to the approval of the building department and Department of Public Works. Here are the master plan considerations, images of the existing conditions, and there's the barbed wire I was talking about, the dumpster enclosure, and then those are the parking, that's the bike parking or bike racks they presently have. And then this is the primary entrance of the building. So this was the recommendation for the site plan. Presently, I am recommending postponement just because there are a lot of items that weren't, that I needed to see addressed. So yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Well, I'm very familiar with the property, I'm sure a lot of other people are as well, so. Okay, if there are no other questions, a motion would be in order.
We do not have a press. Plan.
No, there's no public hearing on this one, although we can hear from the applicant if you like this.
Yeah.
I haven't made a motion yet.
Okay, because there's a lot of questions here, and some of them come down to, planning commission. And, input. So first of all, I'm Joe Bader, I'm with Washington Engineering. And the owner of the property is online right now as well. If you have questions for him, his name's Jeff, and he's available. I just wanted to go through some of the items, in the review. Just to clarify, where we are, so. Outdoor storage, so this is the processing plant. They're just storing large racks. They don't make any noise, they're just plastic wrapped outside. They don't put off an odor, basically their work is done inside the building, assembled, set outside. They'll ready to be shipped off. So that's basically the outdoor storage portion of this. We had proposed chain link fencing, but we also proposed to put the slats in there. I don't know if you saw that. on the-
I did see that.
Or whether that is still considered performance.
Mhm. The ordinance doesn't permit chain link fencing, even if there's the slats, it's not permitted for, screening.
So we would ask that the existing fencing be allowed, we don't have to take that down. The front of the property has a very large hedgerow of junipers that are really screening that portion of it. I'll work with the applicant and get a different fence chosen for the new area that would meet the ordinance. So with regards to the storage in the front yard, as the photograph shows, this building is all the way to the back, inside 94, so everything is basically in the front yard. That's the only place that we can, put the storage. So we're just curious if, something that has been approved before by the planning commission, that's gonna be, again, perceived as an acceptable option. Planning commission. And then the question was, is what's being tested there? This equipment is basically air test. So it's got air put into it, just sets outside, it doesn't make noise, doesn't produce an odor. And it doesn't make any noise. So it just sits out there for a period of time while it's being weighted to the test, similar to what's done for sanitary sewer. They pressure tested it, sits there for a period of time. And then find out if it's got a leak or not. One of the other things that you brought up was the trees in the front yard. The front yard has overhead power lines. It's got underground gas lines. It has storm sewer in the front right of way. Which is why we didn't show any plantings in that area. We added more plantings back on the property side. More junipers, more trees. So if you take in the number of trees that were required for street trees and our front plantings, we would actually exceed the number of trees that are required for both of those areas. So we would be asking that you consider that option. Rather than planting trees in the right of way and then he's gonna go through and cut them off in a few years. It make a lot of sense. But we've got space to plant to the planting company. Trash receptacle dumpster, just a question of what you're looking for there. I mean, it's block and structure with You saw the photograph with wooden slats. Are you looking for that detail or?
Yeah, I'm just looking for the specs, of the existing conditions to show that the existing conditions comply with the requirements in 122-608.
Okay, and then we're gonna propose either a 5 or 6 yard bin that would be 1 foot lower than that would be the ordinance. Landscaping again. Sidewalk, so we didn't propose a sidewalk in the front, I know in the past other projects in this area have been waived to have that sidewalk installed in front. You go down the roadway, there's only one small section at the very beginning that actually has a sidewalk. This property will not accept visitors. It's only for the employees, for the assembly. So there's no additional customers or anything like that coming to this building, it's just people that are working there. So we don't expect to need people walking, bicycling in the facility. So we'd be asking that the sidewalk be waived, installed in the front. And same thing with walkways through the property, so we're trying to limit our disturbance. By using a lot of the asphalt that's already there. Was creating the additional parking spaces that we need. There's an asphalt space that's pretty well suited to go ahead and stripe it and put the parking there. Without adding more impervious surface to the property. So we did put bumper blocks all along that fencing. In both spaces. In the back where the front entrance is to the building. There's actually a sidewalk there curving along that area that act as the bumper blocks. In that location, we are proposing to replace a portion of the sidewalk to make that ADA compliant. And repave that space so that the space itself is ADA compliant. So we have performance, to get somebody into the building from that location. We're not proposing to stripe any of the storage area. It's basically open storage area. They bring the equipment from inside, outside, where it sets. Defined spaces for that. It's just storage. Parking, as indicated on the plans, there's 2 shifts at this facility. One has 15 employees, the other one has 5. Puts our need for parking at 20 spaces. We provided 5 extra. We had 25 rather than striping for something that we don't need. But feel necessary that we need to provide the 28, there's other spaces, just strike and have 28, but it would seem logical that providing what was needed. And then bike hoops, there are 2 hoops, that actually gives us 4 bike spaces on either side of the hoop. We don't expect people to do biking here, so which is why we didn't propose another, but that should have been great, was that variance for that one additional hoop. Those are pretty much the comments and concerns that we were looking to get your feedback on. For us to go back and revise the plans to bring it back to you, and make sure that we're on the same page.
Good. And thanks for stopping me. I did skip ahead a little bit. With the applicant like to speak.
You should be able to speak
now. Hello, how's everyone doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Thank you. Sorry I couldn't attend today. I got stuck down here in Ontario at a job site and I was unable to make it in person. So I appreciate everyone allowing me to join on the Teams call. Like I say, I appreciate everything that, been learning with the new rules, regiments with the city there, and want to make sure we follow everything by the guidelines properly and Joe's been helping me along here, and Josh, I've been trying to work a little bit with him to update with all the new steps and the growth we're looking to do within the city. So, like I say, Joe covered most of the points there. What we're going to be doing in the plant as of January is our goal to start getting the employees within the facility. I have a couple of different pieces of equipment coming to help us out with making some of the parts. And as Joe mentioned, the outside is basically strictly going to be storage. There's not going to be any noise or smell. These are going to be finished products that'll be wrapped in a clear shrink wrap and placed outside in the yard. So there's nothing that can leak from these parts or any contaminant or any sounds coming off them. As far as these points have been brought up by Josh, I feel we can address the majority of them pretty quickly. And with Joe's help there, I'll work together and make sure we get everything addressed.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, are there any questions now? Mr. Davis?
I guess, maybe this was my not understanding of all the text in the application, but, outdoor storage of catalytic converters seems quite dangerous from a public safety perspective, or maybe not dangerous, but draining on the city's public services. So why, can you talk about having catalytic converters out in an unsecured location is a good idea, and that we should approve the site plan that you guys have?
Like the product.
To the applicant more than the staff, thank you.
Yeah. So the product itself is not unsafe by any means. There's no chemicals in it. There's no nothing that can leak into the environment. It's a fully sealed metal box. These are meant for the large diesel generators for all the data centers being built across the US. So our customers are Cats and Cummins and Rolls-Royce, Google and Facebook and Amazon. Basically, we're the main supplier to them for all of their large generators. We supply, it's basically the catalytic converter to filter all the air out. So all these have been tested and have no contamination or any possible problems that can cause them to the environment. It's a very clean product, no sharp, jagged edges. It's a good product. It's about the size of an F-150 pickup truck. And it really, I don't see any harm it can do or visual, because it's a very, it's not like a piece of scrap in a yard or anything like that, right? It's a very well taken care piece of equipment.
Okay, and what about people driving in through the chain link fence, putting it on a flatbed truck and driving off with it?
It's impossible. We have custom built forklifts we use for lifting these. The only other way is if they drive a crane into the yard and lift it out. It'd be each box weighs a give or take of 10 to 15,000 pounds, and the fork pockets are strategically placed so that you can't just pick it up with a random forklift.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Smith?
Can you explain what is being tested exactly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all we do for our testing on these is an air test, and it's a test for leaks. Since it's a catalytic converter, it needs to withhold the exhaust and emissions that's coming off of the diesel generators. So we fill it up with 2 psi of clean air from the shop line. We withhold the air for 2 hours. If the pressure gauge does not drop after 2 hours, then we know we've sealed the product properly. If it does, the pressure drops, then that means we got to tighten another bolt. May have to patch up a little hole in a weld, whatever the case may be. May have to, another fitting might have to be tightened down. We just spray it with soapy water, just Dawn soap and mixture of water, and test the unit to make sure there's no leaks in there. And that's the only leak test we'll be doing on them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions? Okay, hearing none now. Should we be in order to consider the staff recommendation? Mr. Davis?
Yeah, so. I thank the applicant for answering the questions,
Mhm.
I will, so we can have further discussion, I will make a motion to postpone the site plan, for 599 South Mansfield. With the findings and conditions stated on page 266 of our packet.
Well, thank you. Is there a second? Moved and supported. Is there any discussion here on the merits of the motion itself?
I'll take the first,
Bill?
whack at it. I think, I'm glad the two gentlemen spoke up. I think they're, this is, can be a worthwhile, adjustment to the site plan. I do think there's questions that need to be answered. And I look forward to reviewing it again. Just for staff, I very much appreciate the non-motorized component in the review. I think if we have to be flexible, I think we should try to find the right balance, given that there's nothing out there, right now, but I don't wanna put ourselves in a place where this spurs future further improvements to parcels, and then this is the last parcel that has nothing on it. So I do think that there's a happy balance to be found here, so. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Mark.
Go for it.
I would love to get a little bit more information about the environmental impact of using non-dish soap on cup size things that you're doing on mass. And also, I feel like I would like the applicant to consider the fact that their employees might like to bike to work when they're talking about bicycles.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Burns, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis Junior,
Yes.
Commissioner Hollyfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodring.
Yes.
All right, the application has been postponed. I will be in contact with you guys tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Next item is 401 East Michigan Ave, building expansion and laundromat site plan application. And then if you do have a presentation, if you could, Mr. Burns, as we go through this, maybe skip anything that's already in it and there was.
I mean, all of this is ultimately in the packet. You know, I mean, I can go over just very basic elements. Presently, the site used to be the old Clux Drive-In, and the applicant is proposing to expand that building and convert the space into a laundromat. There was an application to convert the space into a marijuana dispenser. But however, that application ended up expiring. Surrounding land uses, general corridor and PMD. Regarding the site plan or building location and site arrangement, the site presently has a non-conforming single-story commercial building, along with 15 parking spaces. There's little pervious surface that exists. The applicant does propose to enclose the canopy, adding 1,900 square feet to the existing 1,100 square foot building. And the expansion will not necessarily address all the non-conforming elements of the existing building. However, it will make the building more conforming with zoning requirements, especially with bringing the building closer to that front lot line. And then, yeah, minimal site changes are proposed, but the applicant does include additional landscaping and a new dumpster enclosure. So here are the nonconformities and existing nonconformities. In terms of the items to address, the applicant would need to demonstrate that the refuse truck will not conflict with the two northernmost parking spaces. And the applicant will need to submit a revised photometric plan limiting the maximum foot candle level at the lot line to 0.5 foot candles. Additionally, the proposed light poles cannot be more than 16 feet. They are shown to be, I believe, 20 feet. Regarding site access, traffic and parking, here are the nonconformities and existing nonconformities. Ultimately, there's not a lot to address here. However, the applicant, I did note that the asphalt surfacing was in poor condition, and so the applicant shall repair and or replace asphalt surfacing in poor condition. And then the planning commission may want to consider waiving the requirement for loading zones for a loading zone due to the site's constraints. And then engineering is not required, and the site is subject to approval of the building department and the Department of Public Works. Here are the master plan considerations. Here's some images. It at one point was an A&W back in the 50s. And then here's some more pictures of the existing conditions. And then here is the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak? Oh,
Wanted to say, I've had a great experience so far, and I'm very excited. We have a laundromat about 5 miles away in Ann Arbor. I'm Tiger, and we're really looking forward to doing our second one here in Nipsey, and yeah. Bye.
thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
Why, some things in here that I was wondering, why does this not need to have an engineering review on?
Oh, because they're not changing any of the impervious surfacing. It's already asphalt underneath the canopy. And so there is ultimately no changes, and there's not any substantial changes to the proposed stormwater or utility changes. So
There's no utility changes necessary to go from a vacant site to a laundromat?
no, there's no utility changes that would require an engineering review.
Okay. Alright, thank you.
Any other questions, staff? Okay. Hearing none, motion would be in order to consider the staff recommendation. Actually, we can wait a beat, I guess. We're right in the line here with, well, oh, there we go.
Say, I won't be making that. I can make it one.
I motion that we approve the site plan for the proposed building expansion and laundromat at 1 East Michigan Avenue with following findings and conditions. Finding 1, the application substantially complies with sections 122-309 and 122-311. Following conditions. The applicant shall demonstrate through truck turning templates that the refuse truck will not conflict with the two northernmost parking spaces. 2, the applicant shall submit a revised photometric plan limiting the maximum foot candle level at the lot line to 0.5 foot candles. Additionally, the applicant shall revise the height of proposed light poles to no more than 16 feet in height. 3, the applicant shall repair and or replace all asphalt surfaces in poor condition. And 4, the development subject to the approval of the building department. Any work done within the right of way shall receive approval from the Department of Public Works.
Is there any support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Okay.
I guess I'm gonna vote no, so, in the past, we've said why we're gonna vote no, I just don't agree that with any of the master plan considerations on page 18, don't actually think. Um. Those would lead us to approval, and I think the consistency of my opinion on that plan and the site plan. Don't allow me to vote yes on 311, section, or doesn't allow me to say it complies with section 1.2311.
Yes.
I have one
Please.
question about how we're evaluating runoff and like environmental impact of laundromat.
That's not something that, we considered as part of, there was a former laundromat application at 1510 Washtenaw. That's not something that we considered during that review, and that application was approved.
Yeah, my understanding is that this isn't really like a dry cleaner, it just goes down the drain. Yeah.
Sure.
With him. On a different scale, so. Any other concerns, questions?
No, I would just call the question.
Oh, I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that, Mr. Burns, will you call the roll?
Yeah, Commissioner Jones Chance,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis Senior. Commissioner Hollyfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
No.
Commissioner Woodring.
Yes,
All right. Motion. That would be a motion pass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is just going back, we're gonna go to electronic message board signs.
I know we're all super excited to be talking about this again. Let me pull up that part of the,
And these are the new marijuana.
I tried to have y'all vote no for it, but we want to keep it, so.
I don't know, you ever tried that? And then drive.
It doesn't, based on the ones we permitted, it doesn't seem like it works out well.
So this is the same memorandum that I included last month. Nothing has changed about that. I know that you were wanting to see some of the regulations for the surrounding communities. So I included Ipsy Township, Pittsfield Township, and the city of Ann Arbor. I mean, I don't know if you want me to specifically go into what those regulations said, or if you had a chance to look at the packet.
To maybe skip you, skip some things. I did review the packet and I think I missed it, or maybe it wasn't in here. I didn't have time to look. I didn't see the things about, with the exception of Pittsfield, about the zones that were permitted, and I didn't find that part. And I think it could be the fact that it's linking different directions of zoning code. So, I did notice that Pittsfield Township said, where was it? That it's not permitted in any non-commercial zones. But I wasn't sure about if that was in there for Ann Arbor or Ipsy Township.
I don't fully recall. I would have to look specifically. It looks like it is well, it doesn't, it states that if it borders a residential zoning district, that the lighting cannot exceed 0.1 foot candles above the ambient light at the lot line. I would have to further look into that requirement, into the requirement for Ann Arbor and Ipsy Township. However, I did also, include potential maybe revised language. where it does permit EMBs for non-residential uses, you know, in all of the zoning districts. But there were also a couple of additional items that were included as part of the regulations, specifically with non-glare panels for the EMB, but also including some of the language that Ann Arbor has, where if a property is zoned or used for residential purpose, it cannot exceed 0.1 foot candles measured at the property line. And the other thing that I thought was interesting that was included in Pittsfield is they have this provision that an electronic message board owner shall permit the city, state, and federal government to post messages on the EMBs in the event of an emergency. I thought that that was interesting and potential. I mean, obviously, hopefully we'll never have to utilize any extreme measure like that, but I just thought that that was something that was unique in their ordinance.
One question for you, Josh.
Yeah.
Make sure I think I caught it in here. These 197, this was the sign design standards. I haven't seen new language. It looked like maybe you were taking from maybe the older one that said that the maximum area for an electronic message board sign shall be no greater than 50% of the zoning district's maximum area for freestanding or building mounted signs.
Yes.
And the maximum height and minimum setback shall comply with the zoning district's allowances for freestanding or building mounted signs. One, I think that's good. Two, that conflicts with what we just amended for one property owner in particular, but we applied it to the city wide about the size that came back from city council for us to review. So that's going to be an issue again. And not that I don't think this is a good idea. So something to know. And then maybe I'm not math, so I don't have it on my top of my head. But I'm assuming the residential districts don't allow signs.
No, they do allow signs.
Okay.
I can go to, they each have their own, which actually the ordinance is pulled up.
So like for so 908 Congress, that's in R1 district.
That's in the CN mid.
That's in CN mid, okay.
Yeah, so that's core neighborhood. Maximum freestanding sign is 36 square feet for a non-residential use. Which means that the maximum, area would be 18 square feet for the EMB. That remember when we were doing the EMB revisions, we increased the maximum size for all core neighborhoods. Regarding the R1 for a freestanding sign, the maximum area is 16 square feet. And the maximum area for a building mounted sign is 0.5 square feet for each linear foot of a building frontage, or 12 square feet, whichever is less. And so ultimately in the R1, that would cap, that is substantially different than what we have in the core neighborhoods. Now, is that somewhat conflicting? I would say yes, because the R1 district and the core neighborhood single family district, they both have the same allowances and in terms of uses. The only difference is that one's a Euclidean code and one's a form-based code. And yet in the core neighborhood single family, if you have a non-residential use, you're able to have up to 36 square feet of signage for a permanent freestanding sign, whereas in the R1 is 16 square feet. And so in many ways, that kind of makes it feel a little arbitrary as well. Now granted, a lot of our sign ordinance is arbitrary. So
I would say not arbitrary, I would say subjective. It's not the beholder. I believe there should be 0. You think it should be 36 square feet. Okay, there we come in the middle, that's subjective. I would just say, I don't want us to have the word arbitrary on the record when we talk about this. We're gonna get sued by somebody. It just feels.
I agree with that. I think every time we've talked about signs, we've pulled in other data and made decisions based on the data that's available to us.
Yeah, Sorry.
No, you're
I did not
totally
stop
okay,
you
yes.
entirely, I just think, yeah. But then, thank you for saying that, because I think that sets some context. That if we're looking at like a resident, like a R1 zone, then if we were to have this language, you said maximum of 12 square feet?
12 for building mounted signs, but it is ultimately based on the linear frontage of the building. And then freestanding 16 square feet.
So 16 square feet, and then if we were to incorporate what our neighbors have for signage, then we're talking 50%, no greater than 50%. So we're talking about in that would be a free mounted sign would be 8 square feet. So we're talking about 4x4 foot sign.
Well, 4x4, I guess dimensionally like total, but then you'd have the 4x2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, thank you, yes.
Any other questions for? Seth? Okay, is there any interest in seeing? Well, I guess. Do we need to see something back here? I mean, this is pretty much. I don't know what more we're looking for here.
I also did really quick want to preface, like, again, this is just a possible proposal. Ultimately, I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, depending on what the planning commission wants to do, just let me know and I am cool with bringing that forward. This is just, I don't know, a possible route of changing the ordinance, which, I mean, yes, it would make some people happy, but at the end of the day, it's also like, is it something that the planning commission and city council would like to amend? So this, and again, this also isn't a public hearing, so I'm more than happy to make any necessary changes or no changes whatsoever, depending on what the commission would like to do.
I mean, I think. I'm a no vote, but in the spirit of debate, I think having we're seeing what the other surrounding communities are. There's a comment last month that we shouldn't have Ypsilanti, the city of Ypsilanti, be an outlier to our neighbors and just allow these places to go into the township because they allow the things that we don't allow. I'm very, very sensitive to that. So if Ypsi Township doesn't allow them in their residential neighborhoods, I don't know why we should. And if that's the case, then maybe we need to send our liaison to the ZBA that they need to reconsider some of their decision making. But I do think having an actual draft of the ordinance text would be very helpful. I think we need to see that. I think the other question I had after the last meeting were that I know I asked Josh and said that's going to be a lot and there's a lot of other stuff on his plate and I didn't have the time to do it myself. How many parcels are we talking about here? Are we making we're making a zoning text change to affect 6 parcels in a 25,000 parcel city? I don't know. It would be nice to know, have some sort of proportional scale of what we're actually talking about. So, but that's just something for, I think, maybe other commissioners to think about. And I'm not asking you to do that unless you don't have time.
If I have the time, I will.
Yeah, or if they're paying you overtime, then you should definitely do it. Oh, yeah, now, yeah, you can use, now that you don't do the minutes, for these 6 hours, yeah, we think you should do that. That was Amanda's suggestion, not mine.
Just to,
No, I'm not.
just to put my personal thoughts on it, from what I can tell, basically the only major residential zone that doesn't allow EMBs for non-residential use is R1. And to me, that feels kind of like a weird outlier. R1 districts that do have non-commercial, grandfathered in, buildings. I don't see, I was convinced by the arguments when it was brought forward regarding the church, so why is this an outlier compared to everything else? And so, while I don't have a strong opinion on the merits of electronic message board signs, and I suppose if you ask my aesthetic opinion, I would say that I don't necessarily like them. I don't see a real reason why they would be disallowed in R1 zones and allowed in for neighborhood mid, for instance.
Do any other questions, comments?
I'd just say, well, you know where I stand, I'm pro EMB. And I guess part of my problem is that some of the institutions are granted just a right to have it. And for the example, the one down the street that the Metropolitan was seeking one, but then a block away in the same neighborhood, Perry School just put up one. So I find that a hard pill to swallow as a private citizen if that was my building, but I couldn't have one, but this one here has one by right. And I find that more devastating than anything else as it relates to the zoning ordinance, even though it is what it is. But I just have a problem with that, even the new one they put up at the Eastern's at the golf course, it's like, it's huge, but it's not super bright at night, when I drive past it at nighttime, so I don't have a problem with it. And I just think it's the way of the future, so, but that's my 2 cents.
I wish we had control over those ones, and we don't. And so it's just not under our purview. And so we can't just do whatever the state does just because because they allow it, we should allow it too, but we have to control or make our decisions around what we can control. That's what we do.
That's my point too.
I've only heard negative things about, and I'm a huge IPSI schools advocate, and I've only heard negative things about the EMBs that they put up.
Brian, can I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Build anything again, and maybe this is something the city could ask this for a city attorney. Did we introduce the religious organization exemption in our EMB drainage? If we exempt religious organizations from the restrictions on the zones, problem solved. So churches can have them. Don't look at me like that, Steve. That's the heart of the issue. The congregation was here telling us this is the problem, that they're subject because they were forced to be in a particular location. The city developed the zoning norms around that. I hear it. You can do anything you want in this country for religious exemption period. This is why not assign. We're really just getting ahead of the Supreme Court on this one. We're on the right side of history.
Landmark EMB.
Done, right?
Okay, Mike.
Let's talk about bylaws.
Get a proposed text amendment. I think what's here is fine, minus some of those smaller inconsistencies that could maybe be cleaned up, but. Yeah, I think this is fine. I'll save my comments about the neighborhood of that particular church for another time, so. I think it'd be good to see something back. I don't think anyone's opposed to that from what I could tell, so let's maybe see a proposed amendment and duke it out at that time.
All right, so yeah, I'll propose an amendment. I won't particularly do a public hearing just because ultimately, it could dramatically change or it might not change at all. But I just want to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible with the community. So yeah,
Well, if there's a public hearing, any changes that we make. At that meeting. So allowed to progress forward.
yeah, no, it would allow it to progress forward, but I think that a lot of times if we do a public hearing and then make substantial alterations, yes, you might be able to see it, but at the same time, people aren't directly looking at exactly what the proposal is. Like sometimes it can be a little bit confusing when changes are made during the meeting. And so I think in order to ensure full transparency with the community, we need to show them as close to a finished draft as possible.
Everyone agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the situation we could stumble into is back-to-back public hearings on the same thing.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, annual bylaw review,
So
5 years late.
For Amanda and Ray, I made it so that you guys had to be here, so you're the bylaws, so you better have read them.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
I included a couple of slides on this, Robert's rules, and I truthfully was utilizing the like Robert's rules, like for dummies book that we have in here. But there's the general order, that it establishes, and then this is what our present order is, which I realized that sometimes we weren't fully complying with it, and especially with like having, I mean, the public hearings almost always occurred first, but I was like, oh, maybe I should actually be defining a specific section for the public hearings. So yeah, this is general order, and then this is the planning commission's order of business. Regarding the questions that the planning commission had last week, when should the planning commission be asking the applicant questions? Generally, it's best practice under Robert's rules and standard municipal procedure that you have the staff report, staff introduces the application, provides background, etc. And then you have the applicant presentation, and then the commission is able to ask both the applicant and staff questions. Then you have public hearing, and then commission deliberation and motion. So that was the answer that I got for that general question. And then the other one was,
Josh, could you go back, so can you keep that slide up just for a second?
yes,
It comes the way to read the very last one. Okay, thank you.
yeah, I did actually think it was interesting that it was specifically noted that that follow-up questions clarifying or the commission may ask follow-up questions to staff or the applicant, but it does state through the chair. So I don't know if that just means like asking the chair for permission, to ask the question or, deliberating
That means that
directly.
you don't speak directly to the applicant, but I think that. I don't think we care about that generally.
That's fair. Regarding the other question, when a member makes a motion on an item and that motion fails, is the same member allowed to make another motion on the same item? Basically, a member, including the one who made the original motion, may make a different motion on the same item as long as it's not the same or similar to the failed one. And if a motion is voted on and fails, the same motion or the one that is substantially the same generally cannot be renewed during the same meeting unless one of the following occurs. One being a motion to reconsider where this motion must be made by someone who voted against the failed motion, or there's the motion to renew where this motion is only allowed if circumstances change significantly, such as finding out additional information from the applicant or staff as part of that review. So, and then I think, yeah, that was all I had on that.
I think the main item here is just the order, I think it'd be good to integrate that. I think the way we did things today was this, right? So we maybe just duplicate that. I think we're probably golden, unless anyone has any qualms, concerns.
Yes. Do we have? Never mind. Just like, we have to have a confirmation of quorum, as an actual, item, but,
Oh,
I guess.
I think we'll,
That's the order of business, is we can't even start business if we don't have a quorum, so I guess every time we start business, that's confirming.
I think we do that during the roll call.
Yeah.
So, one thing I did notice is, you know how we have the two public, comment periods? This one, only indicates a public comment. Actually, wait, no, it does not. Our, order of business shows a public comment, at the beginning of the meeting, but it does not show it at the end of the meeting. Now, as to why we have it at the end of the meeting, I'm not sure. I just kind of took what staff was doing before and continued.
We specifically asked for it to be, but at the end.
Okay.
For, I can't remember if it was like for people that joined the Zoom halfway through, people that have sat here and listened. And now have a further public comment, but I think we did that, yeah. Maybe a year before you, Josh, before you started, maybe?
Okay.
Maybe we
Yeah,
should
yeah.
incorporate that then.
I'll make those amendments, regarding the order of business, and then I'll bring this as a resolution of the amendment to you guys. And then if y'all approve that, then send it to the, city council.
Lovely. Everyone cool with that?
Yes, I do have a question though, I do wanna go home, but,
You're good.
Phil brought up this discussion, this question that you answered, if you could go back to the, yes, to this and the similar, so. Do we, I wanted to ask what would be similar? And so, maybe for other commissioners that are here, like, would we say that if we make like, a condition, we have a condition that is, we're going to have applicant shall install 2 bike booths, and then that fails, and then there's a second motion that's made, and it says there shall be 7 bike booths or no bike booths. Is that similar, or is that substantially different? It doesn't matter.
I think if it's, if it were something that small, it would probably have been an amendment. And so just reintroducing the same motion to draw it out, I hope you get a few extra votes during the same meeting is what they're trying to avoid.
Okay, so then I think, so then we're all comfortable with if motions fail and there's conditions. In a second motion, if there's conditions removed or added, not similar, that is a different enough to be considered a new motion.
Yeah. I
Okay,
mean, if it's, I think we'll know when we see it, it's clear that that was what was holding things up and the changes that I passed.
okay. So Phil, as Josh talked about this, do you think so you mentioned that you thought maybe our bylaws needed to be changed?
Mainly because I have seen incidents where there were things overturned, lawsuits, and that when Roberts were followed correctly, and there were actually lawsuits that and legal ramifications that have changed the course of that particular motion. And so that was my suggestion on that, is to be clear, more so to, protect us and the city. So that was my motivation, so. And generally speaking, that any of the institutions that where I had dealt with Robert Rules, we did not do that. We made them had to go to the next meeting to each said motion, that in essence was the same thing. Not unless it was something major, so. And of course, there are times to make a motion to revisit, which is rare, but that's normally something that's a drastic change. It's just like you can't make you made a motion, I can't make a motion to say, to destroy your motion, that's not allowed, so. It's got to automatically be a friendly motion, amendment, it can't be a destructive amendment, otherwise, the only thing you can do is vote it up or vote it down. So it's all about protection, and that's where I'm coming from.
Everyone, I guess we'll see this again. Next item up is public comment. A motion will be open public comment.
So move.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's good. Anyone in the room would like to speak? You have the opportunity now. If you are online and you'd like to speak, please ready yourself. You will be next.
There's nobody online.
No one in the room? Okay, a motion to close if you know.
So move again.
Moved and supported, all in favor? All opposed? Sounds good. Meeting's adjourned.
Ten thirty. Oh, okay, weird.